try. Okay, here we go. Awesome. Well, let's jump in, Larry. Well, first I want to say thank you for joining us on this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really an honor, especially seeing someone in the creative field do as much as you have over the years since you've graduated Emory. I'm really excited to dive into your story and hear more about it. Um, but before we jump into that, I always like to ask guests when they hop on the podcast, what's something creatively that you've been working on recently, or just a creative passion that you've had recently?
Something that I'm really excited about was a clothing and merchandise collaboration I did with Teton Gravity Research. They're an action sports media company, and the Grateful Dead, one of my favorite bands. It was kind of a bucket list project that came across my desk and couldn't say no. And the collection released earlier in 2021. And it's been so fun to hear from members of the Grateful Dead community and people who got turned on to the band because they saw the work I did. All of that has just been so exhilarating. And again, like it was a bucket list item. So
Yeah,
just thrilled.
that's super cool. Wait, what did you all make? What was the merch or
We
clothing?
did hoodies, long sleeve tees, some hats, some graphic posters, kind of things you would find in the Grateful Dead world, or things
Yeah.
that you would want to wear on tour.
Mhm.
We did some keychains, some bandanas, things like that.
Yeah, that's super cool. I'm sure that was also fun to do because you said a year ago. So was this quarantine? This was
Yeah, I mean, well, we started the conversation for that project in the middle of
in the
the
middle of the
pandemic.
pandemic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it took a few months to kind of get approvals done and get production done, but so it came out earlier in 2021 this year,
Nice,
and
nice,
it's been so cool.
nice. Awesome. Well, I think I'd love to dive into some of this awesome stuff that you've done throughout your career. Um, do you mind maybe briefly sharing a bit about the different hats you wear? Because I know a lot of creatives, it's like, well, yes, maybe I do design and I do things creatively, but sometimes it's better to explicitly just say like these are the different sort of buckets I work in. So, what are the different areas you work in the creative field?
Yeah, so I'm traditionally trained, I guess, as a graphic designer, and that would be my like source of income, so to
Yeah.
speak. But I'm also an artist on the side, and like I said, with my previous project that I did, that was like all from like the art world.
Mm,
But as a designer, I would say a good designer needs to know how to write. A good designer needs to know how to think like a little bit of strategy or marketing strategy. So I do all of that. I wear all of those hats. And now I'm not the best writer, but I can get something put together for someone else to come in and maybe edit later, but I can get some things started.
yeah.
So I think that makes me a valuable member of any team.
Yeah. I'd love to dive into that more too for any, especially Emory students that are also designers or just graphic designers more traditionally. How did you develop, I guess, these other skills that you needed that were not explicitly like working in Photoshop or InDesign? Like, how did you figure that
Well,
out?
Emory students are well read, right?
Yeah,
Emory
that's true.
students are like need to know how to write papers and things like that. So I would say like my writing skills come from being an Emory student.
No, that makes sense. I'm like, hey, I've definitely written my fair share of papers while I've been here. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. And you studied film studies when you were at Emory, right?
Yeah, I minored in film studies, and then I like had an interdisciplinary studies major where I wrote about the rise of the MP3, which was
Oh, I
kind of
love
aging
that.
myself a little bit.
I mean,
But
hey, still none very interesting. Still very interesting.
yeah, but yeah, the film studies part was a minor that I could add on. I was really interested in it, and I don't know if this professor's still there or not, and I don't know if he even knows. But this professor Eddie von Mueller, he was a documentary professor, and he was really impactful to me in my life, and just seeing the way he taught classes and showing us films that he was passionate about, like it kind of gave me the critical eye that I have today.
Interesting. So even through film, you're saying like working through what you learned with him in film, you were able to transfer that over to graphic design and other things that you were doing.
Yeah, it just kind of gives you the eye to see
Yeah.
like value or storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then, obviously too, you mentioned, well, so you graduated from Emory, and then you also studied at Portfolio Center. Is that right?
Yeah, Portfolio Center is a design school here in Atlanta. They're now called the Miami Ad School or
Okay.
part of the Miami Ad School, but at the time it was called Portfolio Center, and it was like a design boot camp, 2-year program where they really weed you out, like whether or not you like want to commit to this career or not.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say you have to go to a school like that,
Mm.
but I was at the point to where I just wanted to bet on myself.
Yeah.
So I told my parents I was taking out the loans to pay for school myself. And there was no option B. And so I went for it, and the rest is history.
Yeah, yeah, I would say. How was that transition, I guess, from Emory to Portfolio Center? Was it like, I mean, obviously it's a new and different environment. How was it working with the students there versus Emory and just taking classes?
Well, I think with Emory students, we're kind of forced to like know how to network and know how to meet people, and in a non-fake way too,
Yeah,
right? So being at design school and like having people from the design community teach me and mentor me throughout the way and genuinely become friends with them, that helped me along the way. I mean, I hate to say like it's like who you know, but it
yeah,
kind of is who you know
yeah,
sometimes. um, but that doesn't mean that you can't like skate by without not being good at design too.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was really a lot of hard work and like making real relationships.
Yeah, yeah. And I know the second piece I wanted to ask that too was that I know that, me included, there are a lot of designers that are students that maybe are not going to design school or haven't gone to design school. Um, how do you think that students can leverage the skills and maybe experience that they have outside of formal teaching for jobs and internships?
Yeah, I think there's two things. Well, first of all, like being young is an advantage right now.
Mm,
So you are exposed to new media and new social media like quicker than old farts like me are. And if you can adapt and like know how to use these things well, you're valuable to a company. So that's first and foremost. And then also it's never too early to start an online portfolio. So any of your work that you have, like get it on the internet. Um, you don't have to have a design degree to get a job in the design world. You just have to be good.
yeah, yeah. I think that's super important to hear, I guess, too, from you in terms of knowing that. I mean, because I feel like we also talked about before how you mentioned your journey is almost serendipitous in a way that some things have worked out. And from my perspective, I see the creative path as a winding path that this is honestly something that graphic design is something that I've always done, but only recently thought of as a professional pursuit.
Mhm.
So it's very, very good to hear that as long as you're a good artist and you have some skills too as being a young person and just tapped into the culture, that's really helpful.
Yeah, being tapped in is so helpful. And then I guess a third point that I could make is find designers out there that you look up to and reach out to them and like be persistent. I think having a mentor or having someone that can give you honest feedback on your work only makes it better.
Yep.
And the sooner you can do that, the better your work can be.
Yeah, yeah. That's super important. Do you think that there are, I mean, I know it's still pandemic and things are closed, but are there any resources, I guess, that you used in Atlanta while you were at Emory or now that you think that younger graphic designers can take advantage of?
The internet. I mean,
I know, right?
you
At
just
this
look,
point.
yeah, you just look up people that are good
Yeah.
and find their email. It's not that hard. Yeah, just blow them up and bother
Yeah.
them. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that honestly, like that's the best way. And another thing is like when I was your age, I didn't know that graphic design was a career
Mhm.
path. And so
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time like doing things like this. I actually just did a kind of a keynote speaker type thing over Zoom with my high school in Texas
Wow.
and talked to them about graphic design and how it's a career path that you can pursue and be happy and make money and all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know in high school, I was
Yeah.
just like, I like oil painting, but like, I don't know how that's going to make money when I grow up. So,
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's how it is for a lot of creatives. It's like you never really know until I guess you hear it and you hear from somebody directly in the field that's doing it. Like, hey, like this is what I did. Like you can do it too. It's just a matter of putting in the work and the effort and time, and it'll
yeah.
come about.
And then you just got to be lucky that somebody wants to come and talk to you at your school and
Yeah.
share what they do. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, exactly. Which is why we're so grateful to have you. So appreciate
I'm
it.
so happy to do it cuz like if someone can like know about this sooner, then they're just going to be better,
Yeah,
They're going to be better off than me just like searching,
yeah.
trying to figure it out, trial
Yeah.
and errors.
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, okay, so I want to dive into a little bit more to your Emory experience. What were some of the things that, or were there things that you were involved in that you see a direct relationship to influencing what your career journey ended up being? So, any like specific experiences that stood out that helped shape your career path?
Well, like I said, the film studies thing was
Right.
big for me. I was in a band at Emory, and I
Wow.
think that just doing that, we I wouldn't say we were good, but we had a lot of friends and we played a lot of house parties, and that kind of was networking in a way. I got to know folks and got to become good friends with a wide variety of people.
Mhm.
And then, do you guys have LearnLink still?
No,
Do you
I
know what
don't
that
think
is? Oh
so.
no. So
How does
now I'm
that?
really dating myself, but LearnLink was like it was like a platform. It was like a pre-social media platform that it was like social media before social media
Wow.
for Emory. And I would promote my band on there. There would be different forums for talking about music or art. Um, Teachers were required to like give class syllabuses over LearnLink, and it was like a funny little ecosystem. But in itself, it like kind of taught me like internet behavior
Yeah, yeah.
in a way.
That's super cool. Yeah, I was like, I know we have what's called Canvas, which is like just for the all our online course. Our courses are like all structured there, but yeah, we just have like Instagram, I guess, for promoting
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
ourselves. So
yeah. This was like pre-Instagram, but kind of like similar behaviors.
yeah, yeah, that's super cool. Um, so I want to transition to our next segment, which we call hot takes. And in hot takes, we get your opinion on what's going up and what's going out in your industry.
Okay,
so
okay, cool.
so in the design world, or you can make it as broad or as specific as you want. What's the new thing? What's happening next in your industry?
Oh man, what's happening next? I don't know. I
Maybe it could stem from like your experiences. I mean, because you've worked with a lot of different brands, right? So is there anything maybe that you've seen over the years that has been like, okay, this is now becoming, this is
yeah. Okay. I don't know if this is a hot take, but my take is that the traditional agency style is kind of passe.
Mm,
So any kind of creative agency, kind of, I would say small to mid size these days. Um, there's like a new model for it as far as like structure. Um, there, I think gone are the days of creative director, uh, you know, associate creative director, art director, designer, junior designer, intern. I don't think it's going to be that anymore.
yeah.
It's going to be like creative director, art director, writer, and two interns.
Mm.
And then from that, I think junior designers and interns will get the knowledge that they need and then start their own agencies with the
Yeah.
same structure.
Yeah, yeah. That's really interesting because I feel like now, well, probably even not even now, I just know that, independent design work or just like freelance design is a huge opportunity for so many designers, whether, if you're not able to work at an agency or if you're just not working a job doing design, you can do a lot with freelance graphic design. I mean, is that true? Do you see from your perspective as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've done it all. I've done agency life. I've done, work from home tech startup,
Mm,
and I'm doing freelance now.
mm,
Uh, and it kind of allows for a great lifestyle
yeah.
because you can turn the faucet on and get work when you need to, and then also turn it off when you want to go on vacation for a month or like just get off the grid for a while. So I think that that's probably the way of the future for more and more creatives is uh, you don't have to be tied to the traditional agency model.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's interesting to hear. So what about what's going out? What's no longer a thing? What's
Okay,
not
I've
a
got a good one for this.
Okay.
Like logos are over.
That's a hot take. I like this.
So like so much gets thought or so much get effort and thinking goes into like a mark,
Yeah.
and everyone thinks that that defines the brand, but
Yeah.
a brand is really so much more than that.
Hmm.
um so I've had this like a brand is like tone of voice, core values, service that you provide. There's so many things that go into a brand that it can no longer just be all like caught up in a little logo. And like Nike's swoosh doesn't mean anything,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it's just a symbol for like all this other stuff that we know and love about the brand. Um, I've had this ongoing conversation with a designer friend of mine, and we keep joking about starting our own agency
Yeah.
where the logo is free, but you pay us for everything else.
I like that. I mean, that's a smart business strategy.
Yeah, because like that,
Hmm.
the exploration process and like decision making process that goes through like deciding on a logo is finite, but the
Yeah.
work outside of a brand is infinite.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't, maybe we can talk about that for a second too. Like how because I also do music, so I know that in the music world it's like people that, especially in hip hop, people that produce beats or like make the backing track behind songs, it's so important for them to know other roles like what's called engineering, which is like knowing how to record the artist, like put it on the track. It sounds
Hmm.
like it's similar in this world where it's like, designers also have a unique strength in being able to not only identify a brand and its strengths, but also being able to help, I guess, on the consulting side and shape the whole brand story and brand image, and like you're saying with tone of voice and everything. So um
Totally.
yeah.
Yeah, the design in itself is the backbone to the way a brand shows up.
Yeah. Yeah. That's super cool. And that is definitely a hot take. The second piece I want to add to that is that it reminds me of, I don't know where I heard this, but I'm sure it's just like generally in the entrepreneurship world that I've been a part of for years. It's just like the people getting caught up on company names and people being like, the company name really doesn't matter too much. I guess sort of like what you're saying in terms of the logo. It's really everything behind that. It's like the services, how you present yourself. What is your story? Like why is somebody intrigued by XYZ company? Like you can literally be
Totally.
called XYZ and be the hottest company because you make some fire stuff. Like,
Yeah, totally. I think there's a balance, right? The logo
yeah.
can be good enough,
Hmm.
but it's what else comes
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
it that
Yeah.
really defines what the brand is to everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. So why don't we just jump into maybe some other piece of advice you have before we wrap up at the end with maybe another fun question for students to know about
Dude, I'm
you.
ready for all the fun questions.
Awesome. So, well, maybe we'll start with some advice. So, over your career journey in design and I guess even writing, strategy, content creation, branding, everything else that you have your hands in, um, what do you think is something that you may have overlooked in your journey that in retrospect you think it would have been better if you had maybe done a little something more in the past to help yourself out in the future?
Yeah, I guess when I was fresh in design school, and even like early in my career, I was so focused on making something look cool or using like the hottest technique to make a graphic, like whether it
Yeah.
be screen printing or a Photoshop filter or like doing it with ink and then scanning it and then doing something else to it before using it. And like the client doesn't care, you know?
Yeah.
Like the client just wants it to be like stand up and look good,
Right.
you know? So I was so focused on that. And then what really kind of I wish I'd paid more attention to was just pure brand strategy,
Mhm.
and writing.
Yeah.
Again, I think that like a strong brand strategy is what all the creative decisions get made off of.
Mm.
And so if you don't have that, and not everyone's not bought in on what the brand exemplifies, then it doesn't really matter what you draw on the computer. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. How do those conversations go? Because I'm obviously still new in the world of like design, brand strategy, and things like that. How do you all figure out the brand and the story that you want to tell? Like, what do those conversations look like?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, you got to get someone to write you a check to do it,
Yeah,
and
that's
you got
the
to
first
convince
thing. Yeah.
somebody how to do to do that. But second of all, a lot of research, a lot of interviews. Like talk to people within the company, talk to people outside the company, get their opinions, and that all kind of informs what a core value is, or a brand pillar might be.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah, it's a lot of talking, a lot of reading, a lot of interviews, and like gathering. So you look at like the world of the marketplace, the world of the consumer, um, the world of like or the brand's history, you know, and that all kind of informs like where it needs to head.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and then what you get is some broad statements uh, that kind of inform like this is what we stand for.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Makes
And
sense.
then you can start saying like, okay, well, this brand is going to be purple and blue, and
Mm.
people can come and ask you, well, why is it purple and blue? And it's because we said this,
Yeah. It
right?
draws back to something.
Yeah, or because every other brand in your sector is red, and
Mm.
we're going to define yourself, or we're going to show up differently.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So I guess another thing that I would want to pick your brain on that process is when it comes to content creation. What does that world look like for you? And what exactly do you mean when you say content creation? Are these just like the branding materials or like advertisements? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's ad like
Mhm.
objects, so
Yeah.
they can show up online. A lot of times it's social media,
Mhm.
so it's
Yep.
tweets, it's ads, it's Instagram posts, it's Instagram story campaigns, it's all of that.
Mm. Okay. Nice. Nice. And then maybe a little bit more, just so that Emory students may be able to see, if they're at Emory and they're, somebody that's trying to get into your field. Obviously, like you said before, do what you can to get your portfolio online, and not being afraid to sort of just like get started and go into it. Um, are there any and I know you also mentioned the internet. Are there any other resources that you think students, or just things that students can do if this is a field that they want to go into, that if you saw, you'd be like, wow, like this person is doing a great job as a student setting themselves up for this career?
Yeah, this might be a broader piece of advice that's related to that,
Mhm.
but one thing that is a super turnoff for me when looking at like young designers' works is if you don't see that they have like a passion outside
Mm.
of graphic design. So whether your passion is streetwear or zoo animals or chess or like automotive or whatever it might be, like if you're genuinely a nerd about something outside of the design world, that kind of like brings a lot of personality to your work.
Yeah,
And you can tell when someone's work is just like super flat and like just made to impress other graphic designers. There's just not a lot of substance there.
yeah, yeah,
So what I like, one of the first questions I'll ask somebody that I'm talking to is like, well, what are you really into? Like, what do you
yeah,
love? You know,
yeah,
are you a collector of some sort or something
mm,
like that? Because like that makes the work so much more interesting.
yeah, yeah. I think that's interesting. That's great advice. And I did hear that you are also passionate in other things outside of design. I hear that you're an avid sneakerhead. I don't know if you collect. I don't know if those are collectibles items in the back or if those
Yeah,
are.
there's nothing like a super value back here. This is just kind of
Okay.
what's in my office at the moment.
Yeah.
But yes, I am a huge sneakerhead. Just like most people, like fell in love with Michael Jordan and his
Yeah.
sneakers.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've got some things in the closet.
Yeah.
But I try to keep a good rotation. Like right now, I'm kind of getting rid of a few things so that I
Yeah.
can bring in some um, like more covetable things that I've always wanted.
Yeah, that's super awesome to hear. And I know you also mentioned that you've worked as an illustrator and writer with Nice Kicks, Complex, Finish Line, had artwork featured in HypeBeast, SneakerFreaker, other blogs. Um,
Yeah,
could you maybe talk about maybe a highlight of one of those experiences and what you got to do?
yeah. I guess just like being a sneakerhead, I was really into it, like kind of during the early days of blogging.
Mm.
And so I had a blog where I would just like talk about camping out for like grape fives or whatever it might
Yeah.
be. And some folks at Nike kind of like saw that my blog was kind of doing some numbers, not huge numbers, but doing some numbers like in the Atlanta market. And so I started going on like these influencer trips and things like that, like where I
Mm.
would go like when they would drop like a new LeBron sneaker or something, I'd go to Akron and play basketball with LeBron James and like try out his new sneaker at the same time. And then they'd also
Gee,
have like the traditional like press corps there, right? So like
that's
ESPN
cool.
would be there, Yahoo Sports would be there, all these other bloggers like me, and then everyone in the sneaker industry was there. So we're talking Sneaker News, Hypebeast, Complex, Nice Kicks. All these folks were there. Like their lead writers would be at these things, and then me, just blogger boy.
Plug
And
boy.
I I kept relationships with all of the people that I met along the way. And as I started pursuing my art career more and more so, I'd, send them like, hey, I just put out this poster or I just did this thing. And they'd always kind of retweet me or they'd write a story for their news outlet, just to show some love. And like forever super appreciate any love that any of those dudes have ever given me on their media outlets. But that's really helped me along the way. It's
Mm.
just like foot in the door, and then I just made sure I became genuinely friends with everyone.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
feel like that's the most organic way even to just get in the door. It's like naturally you'll have relationships with different people, and as long as you're like passionate and genuinely into this stuff,
Yeah, like my passion just like showed up, right?
yeah,
I'm there and I'm like, oh, they put Zoom in this or whatever. Like people picked up on that, and like we DM all the time, or whenever I'm in their cities, we make sure we get up for coffee or whatever. Like it's not important from a networking standpoint at this point. It's important like because they're my friends genuinely.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and so yeah, like the passion has always been there, and I just keep feeding it.
yeah, yeah. It's good to hear. Um, Another question, I guess this is a fun question that I want to ask, that I've also asked other guests, toward the end of the podcast is, do you have a favorite creator or creators that you would like to share with our audience or Emory students?
Oh man. Okay. Well, this is my he's gonna kill me for this, but I will give him a shout out. But my friend Bart Sasso,
Okay.
he's a graphic designer. His company is called Sasso and Company, or Sasso and Co. He's one of my best friends. He's an amazing designer, and like whenever I see his work, it drives me to be better. And when he hears this, he's going to be super embarrassed. Uh,
I'm sure he'll
but
love it.
really and truly, like if he wasn't so good, I wouldn't be so good, right? So
Yeah.
he pushes me, and I still think he's better than me. But I definitely look up to his work.
That's wow. That's heartwarming. I feel like I'm like I said before, I also do music, and somebody that I work with very closely in a collective or a label, however you want to call it, that I make music with.
Mhm.
I feel the same relationship. It's just like the perfect synergistic energy, and she always pushes me to do better. So, how do you think that, or do you think that you see that in a lot of other artists and designers? And how do you think that can help, propel someone, I guess, further into what they're doing?
Well, really, I don't see a lot of like so in the streetwear world or fashion world, like collabs are the big thing, right?
Yeah,
I don't see, or even in the music world, like
yeah,
collabs
exactly.
are collabs are
Abs are,
the best.
yeah.
Like I love to see that kind of stuff, but I don't see enough designers kind of cross pollinating and working on things together. But I'd love to see more of that happen. I'd love to be part of it too.
Awesome. Well, that really wraps up the our podcast, Larry. So I really, once again, want to say thank you for coming out to talk to the students and talk to me today. Um, but if there's any way that Emory students can reach out to you, is there a way that they can do that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks again for having me. This was super
Of course.
fun. You can find me at Larry Luke, at Larry Luk, Twitter, Instagram. And then I still have a Emory alumni email address, so you can find me there too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Larry. It's been a pleasure learning about your journey in design and everything that you're doing, all the awesome things that you've done in your career. And hopefully, to all our listeners, this was helpful. And
Yeah, I hope it was helpful.
yeah, I'm sure it was. You've given so many gems. But until next time, everyone, we'll see you and we hope you enjoy. Take care.